All right. Good evening, everyone. It is July 1st, and this is the regular board meeting for Town of Anger. I hereby call it to order. We've got a full agenda tonight, so we are going to rock and roll. We are joined tonight by members of the Anger Black River Fire Department, and they have graciously agreed to lead us in the pledge and invocation tonight. So if you'll join us with them, you guys will have to, one of you at least, or two, will have to speak into this microphone so the world can hear you. Let's do the pledge, and then we'll do invocation.
Just to let you know, everybody, if you would, face the flag. If you're wearing headgear, please remove it and place it over your, with your right hand over your heart as we recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey, everybody, our chief couldn't be here tonight, so I'll leave the invocation. Please bow your head. Lord, be with these people as they go today, make decisions that will guide this town, guide the future of the area, and hopefully they can do good things. Be with each one if they're having issues, and hopefully they can speak with truth and provide good information. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, guys. All right, we have the agenda in front of us, but it is my understanding that staff has requested us to add new business number 8, which would be another water meter purchase. So I would need a motion for that.
I move to amend the agenda to include new business number 8, a water meter purchase.
All those in favor, please raise your right hand. That's approved. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? If not, I'll make an entertain a motion to approve it.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Consent agenda. We've got approval of minutes and an event schedule. Any discussion? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. All right, it is the first of the month. We've got public comment. Anyone may speak on any issue. If you're here for a public hearing, then just hold on for when we get to that. Before speaking, please state your name and address. We ask that you keep your comments to under 3 minutes so that we can proceed tonight. And generally speaking, the board won't address you right away, though we may direct you to the staff to get some assistance. First, I've got on the list is Miss Jennifer Sloan to speak about parking.
Hey folks, I'm Jennifer Sloan and I live at 27 Wilma Street. I own the Little Goat Soda Fountain in downtown at 28 East Depot Street. 3 months ago, I sent an email regarding the parking issues in downtown to our mayor, our commissioners, and Chief Thompson, who was the interim town manager at the time. I want to thank Chief Thompson for responding to my concerns and for sharing that staff were meeting soon to discuss solutions. I appreciate that the issue was acknowledged. That said, I'd like to follow up with a few things. First, just a reminder that parking in downtown is already terrible on a regular day. No one loves parallel parking, and there are not a lot of other options. However, the parking is about to get worse. With 4 new recently open or slated to open businesses coming, we've got the Wildflower Cottage Bookstore, Nils Mediterranean, a Thai restaurant is expected to open, and a bakery is coming right beside my soda fountain. We can expect even more traffic and demand for parking. While it's great to see the growth, I'm so excited, we also need to go ahead and plan so that we don't undermine the success of these businesses. It's really sad when we see businesses' doors shuttered because they can't maintain. Another concern is that although we love downtown events, when those occur, one of the main public lots is closed off, leaving less parking and a higher demand. This puts a strain not only on the visitors to the event, but also on nearby businesses who see regular customers turn away due to lack of parking. While long-term plans are important, we need some short-term fix, whether it's better signage for the public parking or just paving or graveling the town-owned grass lot on the corner of Broad and Lillington Streets. We also must be working toward a long-term solution. As suggested in my email, the town could certainly acquire the empty lot and the condemned house at 48 and 58 South Dunn Streets. I'd request that the town provide some update, even if it's a brief mention in a meeting or an email that's sent, just to keep us informed that action is being taken. Lastly, and slightly unrelated, but looking at the agenda, it seems that the Community Development Advisory Board is possibly being dissolved, which is extremely concerning. The town website states that the purpose of that board is to stimulate economic vitality in downtown Angier. So I hope if you do choose to dissolve that board, there's a plan for someone else to take up the torch and advocate for us. Those of us who live and work in downtown truly need the support of our town leaders. Thank you again for your time. Have a great night.
Thank you, Ms. Sloan. Next, we have Nick Granger. And she's here to speak about Community Development Board.
Hello, good evening. My name is Nick Granger. I live at 22 Clearfield Drive. I own Wildflower Cottage Bookstore on 12 East Depot Street, and I am here to talk about the Community Development Advisory Board. It is with deep disappointment that we, the members of the Community Development Advisory Board, or CDAB as I'm going to further refer us to, have learned of the town's intent to dissolve the board. This motion, made without the consultation or input from the very members who have volunteered their time, energy, and hearts, is not only disheartening, but it is also a disservice to the citizens of Angier. The CDAB has served more than just a group of helping with events. While we have been underutilized and often limited to assisting with town-sponsored activities for this past year, our potential and purpose have always extended far beyond that. Our board is filled with dedicated individuals who have diverse backgrounds and perspectives and has consistently brought forward ideas and initiatives aimed at enhancing Angier in meaningful ways. This also includes our former members, Kevin Hall, and former chairman, who resigned this morning, Jillian Knowles. From proposed action plans to beautifying our town to encouraging to the use of the facade grants for revitalizing our downtown, to advocating for the balance of growth and preservation of our history unanimously, to developing stronger resources for our youth and the underserved communities of Angier, these ambitions will now be discarded without consideration. We fully acknowledge that the decision ultimately will lie with you, Board of Commissioners and Mayor. However, we believe that it is crucial that our voices and those of the community that we represent are heard, and we want to continue serving Angier in this capacity. And more importantly, Angier needs community-driven engagement like the CDAB offers. We urge all of you to consider not just what is easy, but what is right. We, the members of this board, are your neighbors, your residents, and your fellow citizens, and we are all Angier. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Granger. Chuck Carey, I have you next here. Community Development Board.
I try not to sound redundant because Nick did such eloquently state why we all at the Community Development Advisory Board are disappointed. Not mad, just disappointed.
Chuck, will you share where you live? Will you share your address? I'm right here in front of you.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that. All right. Chuck Carey, 203 Blair Drive, Angier, Windsor neighborhood. Okay, there we go. So anyways, not to reiterate all that, but I was really blessed to be able to be part of that board. It was funny because I kept putting my application in, checking on it, putting it in, calling, what's going on? And then they extended the date, and I'm saying, they really don't want me. They keep adding for more people. But anyways, I got it, and I'm like the only applicant. I was so happy about it because I do love Angier, and I love the things that can be done, and all the boards and all the civic, whether it's elected official, appointed officials, if you're going to serve a town, your goal has to be to be a conduit between the citizens and the leadership, and that goes both ways. You have the citizens saying, we like this, we don't like this, we'd like to see that, and they always can't get to all the elected or appointed officials. So when we have these boards, it's to pass that information one way, and then when there's new information about the park, or because I'm on the Parks and Rec as well, or an event coming up, or what could make, things the town is planning and doing, it's just information, and it's our job to keep it accurate and unbiased and just keep that flow of information going both ways. I had a great time. I only had a couple of meetings with them because I'm fairly new, but we got along really well. I attended all of the events we had. They were very successful. The egg hunt, we had, I don't know, like 1 million eggs or something, but it was a lot. It wasn't 1 million, but it was a lot. And then we had the food truck rally, which was really terrific. And I've been a musician for a long time, 50 years, and I enjoyed the concerts. But it's more than that. It's the whole package, as Nick said, is to make the community stronger and feel part of something and get to know what a gem Anger is. So we're all real disappointed. And I did have one question. Those were my comments. Now, one question is, what prompted this recommendation to dissolve? 2 questions. And what is the downside of having an all-volunteer army? That's it. I'll go back to my seat. Not back to 203 Blair Drive, but right over there.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Denise Galloway, you're next. Town of Anger.
Before I begin, I'd like to ask you for a motion to extend my time to approximately 6 minutes. I know this is unusual. However, I have seen other people extend their time by proxy or other methods, and I'm hopeful that you will make and grant that motion.
I'd like to hear it.
I'll make a motion to extend your time to 6 minutes.
More discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous. Start with your address, please, because it's not on here.
Understood. Good evening. I'm Denise Galloway. My address is 5953 Cokesbury Road, Fuquay Varina. I'm here representing myself as a citizen of Harnett County with professional, personal, and leisure interests in the town of Anger. I'm a small business owner. I operate in this town also. I'm also a freelance writer. I'm not representing the Daily Record or any other publication that I write for. I'm here tonight because I have substantial grievances with the town of Anger. I want an obvious public record of my request to the town of Anger to meet with me and resolve my grievances. I do not expect resolution this evening. I don't even expect a meeting to be scheduled tonight. I simply want to summarize my grievances, and I hope that I am compelling enough to convince you all to meet with me and resolve them. I will not let any of the following injustices stand unaccounted for. My first grievance is with Anger Mayor Bob Usness. On January 7th of this year, he published a deceptive, self-serving email on one of his elected officials' social media accounts. He claimed the contents of that email were his original answers to questions he had already answered in an interview with me the day before. What he wrote is very different from what he said. For example, in the email referring to possible bullying by former town manager Elizabeth Creek, the mayor wrote that he has neither experienced nor witnessed humiliation at the hands of the town manager. This is not what he said in our interview, and you do not have to take my word for it. You can hear for yourself what the mayor actually said in our 47-minute, on-the-record, recorded interview. I brought a little snippet of that interview with me. I'm not going to play it. I wanted to. I'm not sure I'm a good enough audio engineer to play that, but I would like you all to hear that full 47-minute interview. There's a lot more that we can learn and that you should know from our 47-minute interview. The mayor claims he is open, honest, transparent, and accountable. The deceptive email on his elected official social media account, none of those things. He is continuing his dishonest campaign with his latest post regarding me and my reporting that begins, "Let's be open and honest." That post is anything but open and honest. I would like the opportunity to address that post line by line with this board. For instance, he claims that the North Carolina Licensing Board for General Contractors is investigating his business because a political opponent complained about him and the board was required to investigate. That is simply not true. First, the mayor's company is being investigated because the mayor knowingly and willingly exceeded the limitations of his professional license that was issued to him by the state of North Carolina. He wants the public to believe the investigation is politically motivated by a political opponent. I can tell you for a fact that the licensing board opened that investigation on their own initiative. No complaint was made to them. Since he was speaking as the mayor of Anger on his official social media page, I would like some help from the town of Anger to resolve that issue. My next grievance is with your town attorney, Mr. Dan Hartzog. On January 10th of this year, I sent an email to the mayor and the attorney asking for the mayor's deceptive email to be removed. In response to my request, the mayor made an edit that did not resolve my concern. I made this known to the mayor and Dan Hartzog by email. On Monday, January 13th, Mr. Hartzog called me. We spoke for 18 minutes. That call was also recorded. He misrepresented himself during that call, and I would like to meet with you all to discuss and resolve my concerns about his highly unethical communications to me as your town attorney. You can hear the audio of that call when we meet and determine for yourself what you think of it. Finally, perhaps the worst of all, 3 town employees from the town of Anger were politically mobilized to negatively target my small business. They violated at least 7 sections of the Town of Anger Personnel Manual to carry out this action. This is not okay. In January of this year, former town manager Elizabeth Krieg sent a text to Anger Human Resources Manager Veronica Hardaway, directing her to remove a positive mention of my small business from the Town of Anger Facebook page. I made the town commissioners aware of this soon after it occurred. It was quickly reversed. I do thank you for that, those who were responsible for helping reverse it, but it is not enough. I need you to help me understand why Town of Anger staff was mobilized against my small business. One of my questions is, which one of you directed Elizabeth Krieg to make that happen? I will absolutely not let this go unaccounted for. I have some questions about that. Who else has been treated this way? How often has this happened before? If it goes unaccounted for, who else will it happen to? Please meet with me to fully discuss and resolve my concerns. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Galloway. Miguel Hernandez.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. My name is Miguel Hernandez, and I live at 47 Sade Rock Court. And I want to come in today and talk about the CDAP. I volunteered a few months ago because I love what Anger has and what Anger's becoming and the way it's growing. I bring diversity, being Latino, and also being from New York. I bring a lot of things to this table. And like all my colleagues says, we bring a lot of different things into this committee. We're really sad that it's being taken apart. Like the mayor, we saw the vision of one town, one Anger. We want to continue to see that. We want to be able to give them the opportunity to let us do what we can do. We weren't given that opportunity this year. To be honest, last few months of the year, we were able to do a lot of events, even with Dia de los Muertos, which was a great event, a great turnout. This year, when we went, beginning of the month, they told us they weren't even doing it, which was sad because it was such a great event. So we really weren't given an opportunity to do what we can do. We just want to be able to shine and help us to receive and see your vision and make Anger one town, one city. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Betty Harmon. Crosswalks.
Hi, my address is 118 Benton Place Drive. And a few months ago, the DOT in the town resurfaced and redrew the lines on 210 in town. They have put lines back for crosswalks on 2 of the intersections, Dunn and Broad. The pedestrian sign is still up at Willow and 210. There are no lines there. If you read the state statutes, it's very confusing. It appears to be an undesignated crosswalk, but pedestrians and cars don't realize that. And I'm asking for you, since I drive that intersection twice a day, is to go ahead and either remove the sign or put lines up so both pedestrians and cars know that it is a true crosswalk, and you may be saving a life if you do that.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all I have signed up. Is there anyone else tonight who would like to make public comment?
My name's Junior Price. I live at 8173 NC 210 North. Listen to Miss Galloway tonight and all the stuff that's been going on. The board members here do realize that you do have the authority. Dan can lead you in the right direction to do an internal investigation of the board. You do understand that. And instead of waiting for the state to come back and tell us, the state had already told us that something was wrong because we had to give $40-some thousand back. But until the state comes back and says what's happened here is good or bad, you can do your own investigation and figure out what's going on. It just continues on and on and on, and there's one person saying one thing and the other person saying the other. And if you read the articles and read everything, you know, what certain individuals are saying are not true. So you can do your own investigation and put these people on leave until the investigation is done. Election time is coming, and it's coming quick. And we don't need the same mess we've got now in the next election. And it's up to you guys to make, you know, you can do your own. Do it now. Why wait? Why wait for the state to do it? Do it yourself. Answer the people's questions and get the facts out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
If I may, I wouldn't mind a chance to respond to the comments made by Ms. Galloway tonight.
Yeah.
I do recall that phone call with her. I'm glad that it was recorded so that it cannot be misrepresented. I did not make any misrepresentations to her during that call. I explained that I was not the mayor's personal attorney, but I understood she had a concern with the Facebook post that had been made, and I offered to attempt to facilitate a resolution to that issue to the extent that I could be helpful. That was the conversation we had. I'm not sure what she contends I misrepresented in that call, but I take great offense to that accusation.
Thank you. All right. There's no more public comment. We're going to move on to presentations. So number one on presentations, a couple of weeks ago, the Angier Black River Fire Department celebrated 100 years of serving this community. I was honored to be invited to join them and to speak for them. And at the end of it, they gave the town of Angier a plaque thanking us for their support. And while we really, really appreciated that, it felt kind of backwards because really I think that the town owes you guys some thanks. And so it's my pleasure tonight, representing the board and the people of the town, to issue a proclamation for the fire department. So I will come down there, and one of you guys at least.
No, all six.
At least one. I'm
All
being a
6 of
realist.
you.
I'll take 3 as a win. But join me up here, please.
Seven, excuse me, 7.
All right, I've done only a handful of these, so give me a break. A proclamation celebrating Angier and Black River Fire Department 100 years of service. Whereas Angier and Black River Fire Department has been proudly protecting over 15,000 people living in the Angier community since 1925. And whereas Angier and Black River Fire Department firefighters perform numerous duties at great risk to protect the citizens of Angier. And whereas fighting fires is one of the most hazardous professions, requiring physical strength, stamina, excessive training, courage, personal sacrifice, and selfless concern for the welfare of all citizens. And whereas the town of Angier owes a tremendous debt to those who, on a continuing basis, protect the citizens and property of our town. Now, therefore, I, Robert M. Usness Sr., Mayor of the town of Angier, along with the members of the Angier Board of Commissioners, encourage all residents to recognize and celebrate Angier and Black River Fire Department's 100 successful years of protecting the Angier community. I've got this with a fancy seal, and we've got you guys a plaque from the town as well. So I'll happily present it to the who's highest ranking here.
Thank y'all. We appreciate you.
I'd like to also say thank you very much to y'all and for all the extra work you do, and you're not recognized for most of it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you guys for that. Presentation number 2. We have an update on Ting Fiber.
Good evening, Mayor, members of Angier City Council, Town Manager, and members of the community. My name is Kara Shandison, and I'm the Director of Public Policy and Community Engagement for Ting Internet. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening on behalf of Ting Internet. Business strategy and construction update for Angier. After a careful and thorough review, Ting has made the difficult decision to halt further construction in the town of Angier. This decision was not made lightly, but is necessary due to current funding limitations that prevent us from completing the originally proposed expansion to 4,179 addresses. Ting has recently revised its business strategy to ensure that we remain financially sound, sustainable, and responsible in the markets we serve. As part of this change in direction, we are taking a more measured approach to expansion efforts across all regions, including here in Angier. That said, Ting's commitment to the town of Angier remains strong. We continue to operate and maintain our network and to provide reliable service to our existing customers. To date, we have completed full civil and fiber construction to 861 serviceable addresses. We currently serve 185 customers within the town. In addition, civil infrastructure, which is conduit and handholds, has been built to 1,207 addresses, though these are not yet serviceable as fiber has not been installed. Combined, our build reaches 1,604 addresses spanning 3 work zones. As Ting works diligently to restore financial sustainability, we will continue to evaluate and revisit the construction process here in Angier. We acknowledge and understand the frustration this may cause for residents who see construction in their area but are not able to sign up for our service. This is due to the fiber installation being halted in October 2024 after a company-wide workforce reduction. Without fiber in place, these civil-only addresses are not yet serviceable. Ting is grateful to the town of Angier for its support and partnership throughout our work here. We especially appreciate the town's willingness to allow us to place network equipment, including a fiber cabinet, on town-owned property. That cooperation has been vital to our ability to serve this community. We also recognize the importance of our Memorandum of Understanding with the town, which identifies 7 public buildings that were to receive free Ting internet service as part of our agreement. At this time, we are able to serve 3 of those locations, the Public Works and Parks and Rec buildings, and also including the future police station, currently under development. These locations can all be served from our current active cabinet. We remain committed to honoring our obligations under the MOU where technically feasible, and we are happy to continue this dialogue as the town's needs evolve. We would also like to acknowledge and thank the town for recently sharing past due invoices with us. Transparency and accountability are important to Ting, and we are currently working with our vendor partners to fully investigate these items and ensure a proper and quick resolution is made for the town. While we are not expanding construction at this time, Ting remains an active and invested service provider. We continue to maintain our existing network infrastructure, support our customers, and evaluate our strategy regularly to remain aligned with our long-term goals and the needs of the communities we serve. We value our relationship with the town of Angier and are committed to maintaining open lines of communication moving forward. Please feel free to reach out at any time with questions or feedback. Thank you again for your time and continued partnership.
Thank you. All right. We'll move on to presentation 3, unless someone wanted to add something to that one.
I'll add some clarification and,
Okay.
and a little bit of context to the agreement that we currently have with Ting, because I know that's been a question that's come up. The agreement that we have with Ting allows them to have cabinets on town property in exchange for providing free internet services to town facilities, both current and future facilities. We had a conversation with Ting the other day. They're looking into that, and they're going to get us, as I understand it, a timeline on when those services will be provided, because that is a requirement for them to maintain their servers on our property.
Okay.
And we also asked them for a map of where they can have service, where future service would start back up. We just kind of want an idea of where their service starts and stops. They're in the process of getting us that as well.
I know there's one question a lot of people want. What about people that have already signed up? They've not gotten any kind of service. What happens?
Let me address the map question first, if you don't mind. We do have a map that shows our current conduit path and serviceable addresses. We can share that electronically with you. As far as the residents that have signed up or pre-ordered for our service, as I said in our statement, we are still reevaluating our financial strategy and our business plan. Our true hope is to continue the construction here and to service the customers or potential customers. Of course, if we have residents that are interested in getting their pre-order funding back, of course we can do that for them.
I just want to document it.
Yeah, but it's important to note we're still working very, very hard to make sure that we come back.
Do you have an estimated timeline on that?
No,
Revisit,
we
or-
don't. We are evaluating our markets continuously. I don't even want to say it's like by quarter or annually. Like we are constantly revisiting to see like the financial stability to make sure that we're going back into our towns to complete construction. So it's something we are evaluating and looking at often.
So I have also spoken with somebody who was concerned about having signed up and there not being a end in sight. Can you advise on how someone would go about that refund process? From my understanding, customer service hasn't been outstanding for them, so I'm curious.
You know, we do have a few different processes that we've established in some of our markets, and I'll be sure to put that together, and I can send that over, and we can make sure that the residents here are aware of that. Of course.
I have one more question. How soon, you said you could service our Public Works building and our Parks and Rec area. How soon could you get that up and running?
Yep. I don't have that answer right now. I know it's actively being served out of the cabinet, or the active cabinet, I should say. But we can definitely take that. I'll take that as an action item as well.
And thank you for bringing up the invoices, because we've got all of those in our agenda here. Derek, do you know what the total is? I didn't see a statement.
It's right at $45,000.
And some of them go back to December 2023. So
That is correct.
I'm happy to hear that you acknowledge those, and hopefully we can sort that out quickly.
Absolutely. We've had copious conference calls about this already, making sure our finance team, making sure our vendors are involved, and that we're investigating each invoice. So we obviously are taking that very seriously, and we'll be sure to provide those answers back.
Thank you.
Of course.
Any other questions?
I'm curious if there's a circumstance, because you mentioned the word investigate. I'm curious if there's a circumstance where the town's not reimbursed for invoices sent. Certainly, we had staff on site managing the issues that arose from the vendors that were doing the work on behalf of Ting. So hopefully that investigation is aware of the fact that.
Absolutely. We're just, doing our due diligence, making sure that we're really investigating each invoice. We're talking to the vendor, that we have, documentation. We just want to make sure we're conducting a very thorough investigation and research, and making sure that we're getting back to you quickly on that. the customers that we currently have here, we will continue to maintain the network. We will continue to service and provide internet service here.
For those that couldn't hear her on the microphone, an audience member asked, were current Ting members losing their service? And that answer is no.
Correct.
There's one question in the back, and I'm curious to hear what it is, if you guys are all right with it. It's better if you speak into a microphone. Yeah.
In reference to the thing, I had service. I had lines put in a year ago. I've called 5 different times, and I've had no one even tell me they keep telling me they're going to come out, but no one ever comes out and tell me when the service is going to be put in. Now, if you didn't know you were going to do it, they should have come in and ripped up my yard. That's what I'm saying. I think that was fair. But they did came out. It's been over a year, and I've not heard nothing. I have another service date that they just gave me 2 weeks ago, and I still haven't heard nothing. That no one's come out to do anything.
I would love to take your information down, or I have the easiest email address at Ting. It's Kara, Kara, @ting.com. Please feel free to email me and we'll get that resolved.
Thank you, Kara.
Thank you. All right, number 3, presentation. Police Department bank loan proposals.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the board. Kyle Laux with Davenport, Town's financial advisor. File down there, but we've got up on the screen a presentation this evening, and certainly appreciate seeing you. I think the last time I was here, I think it was December, and so nice in the warm months here to be back, a little warmer, a little brighter. What we really have is the results of a bidding process that we've gone through for the financing for the police station. We know it's a project that's been in the works for a while now, and so due to some changes in some of the federal funding, this has been a change in process that I think is going to be very favorable to the town. We can very quickly get to financing and let you get going on the project itself, and so we're excited at that, and we'll walk you through what we have. We can make the clicker. You flip it to the next one. There we go. So what we've really done on your behalf, again, as the town's financial advisor, is to go through a competitive bidding process with banking institutions. So that's local banks, national banks, regional banks, put them all in competition for the financing for the police station. And so what we've gotten back over the last month or thereabouts is 6 different proposals. And so as a first takeaway, the town should be proud, and kudos to you on the board. Your finances are in such a condition that you had 6 different banks that put in a firm bid to provide financing for the project. And I think as you look at the bids that are up there, it's a range of truly local banks. And so First Bank, we'll get to that in the results. We also have the Huntington banks, which is out of the Midwest. You've got JP Morgan Chase, very, very large, Truist, and Webster. So a nice cross-section of banking institutions that put a bid in. But we do have a couple that we'll talk through in terms of the recommendation for you this evening. But kudos to the town for being in a financial position to have such good results from the banking institutions. I should note that in terms of the size, you see the top there, up to $7.5 million. We expect the loans actually to be a little smaller than that as we've kind of worked through the final details. We think it's going to be about $7.25 million, so we'll be even a little bit smaller than that, which will make all these numbers look just that much better. So if we can go to the next page, a lot of small numbers here, but we've tried to highlight a couple things for you. So what we're really showing are the interest rates for each of these proposals. And so the first thing you tend to go look at, no different than maybe your home mortgage or something along those lines, is, all right, what is the interest rate on this loan? And so we've got those summarized on the screen. We did ask for 2 different repayment terms. And so you see at the top of the page, this loan could be repaid over either a 15-year or a 20-year term. We've got a recommendation for you there. But as you think about the project itself, you're obviously building a brand new building. That's going to be a generational type of building project. It's going to be here for decades and decades. And so it makes sense, especially knowing that you are a growing local government, to be financing this over a term that is 15, and we'd really even recommend 20 years. You think about maybe if you've purchased a home at some point, maybe built a home, most people are thinking about financing something like that over 20, probably 30 years with a typical mortgage. And so you think about that in a similar context for the town, it makes sense to make sure we're spreading the cost of that project that'll benefit residents for decades to come over a equivalent time period. And so that's why you see a 15-year and a 20-year option up there. So as you get to the interest rates, this is sort of where the rubber meets the road. We've purposely highlighted First Bank. It's obviously a local bank, and we love seeing those show up in support of our clients and local governments. And so we've highlighted First Bank for a reason. You just look at that yellow highlighting there. They've provided both a 15-year and a 20-year interest rate of 4.5%. And so that 4.5% is fixed for the whole term of the loan, whether it's 15 or 20. And we know what that is today, so we're not floating with the market. We did all the planning and estimation when I was here back in December. We planned at a 5% rate. And so everything we see here is going to be better than the planning. And so we just want to make sure we make that point. The other nice feature of First Bank is that you see in that, I guess, column B there, it's prepayable anytime with no penalty. And so you think about the future of where interest rates go, where the town goes, so forth and so on. You would have, in essence, ultimate flexibility to refinance if rates go lower. If you want to pay it down quicker, you can do that. If you want to pay it off, you can do that, all with no penalty effectively right as the loan starts. And so it is as flexible as you can get in terms of a prepayment provision for a loan. And so we've sort of cut right to the chase there in terms of recommendation of First Bank. But I'll walk you through a little bit of the rest of the flavor up here just to kind of give you that sense. You know, a couple of those that bid, the number 2 there, First National Bank, you see the rates are lower technically. So you see a 425 and a 430. Those rates are only fixed for the first half of the loan. So we like the idea of having a full fixed rate for the whole time period, not having interest rate risk in the future. So I just want to make that clear. Even though you see a lower rate, it's only for the first half of the loan. And that's why we didn't like that bid as much as we certainly do First Bank. One other option that we'll point out here is J.P. Morgan. And so J.P. Morgan, obviously a very large national bank, they bid on a lot of these things. Their rates are technically floating, and so they give us an indicative rate. It floats until we decide to move forward, which we could do. And J.P. Morgan did provide the lowest 15-year rate. And so if the decision here is between do we do a 15-year or we do a 20-year, J.P. Morgan is the lowest for a 15-year rate. And so that would also be a fixed rate for the whole time period. But First Bank is the lowest for a full 20-year fixed rate. In our estimation, our recommendation to you, and certainly you as a board can do as you see fit, when you think about where the town is, you're obviously growing, you're going to have more needs coming behind this. We like the idea of a 20-year amortization for that time period. Inevitably, whatever it is, that'll be up to mayor and future boards in terms of what future projects are. We think it makes sense to take something like this. It'll be generational in nature and pay for it over a 20-year time period, knowing that if you get 3, 4, 5 years down the line and say, you know what, we want to pay this off faster, but we just want to pay it off, you've got that flexibility to do that. And so we do like that option. We think that makes sense, but certainly for the mayor and the board, it's really up to you and your discretion.
Is there an explanation as to what the additional fees are? When I noticed that there's none with
so a lot of
First Bank
banks
and
will they'll have an outside attorney, an outside lawyer look at things on their behalf, and that's usually what that additional fee is just a couple $1,000s to cover that cost. But First Bank is covering that, and so there's no additional fees there. So that's an additional advantage to that First Bank. That's a good question. I think if we go to the next page, thank you. You see here just the payments on the loan here. So a lot of numbers on this page. This is comparing that 15-year with J.P. Morgan to the 20-year with First Bank. A couple observations for you. So again, when we did the planning, the last we did that was in December, we were assuming a 5% interest rate. So all of these payment streams are going to be lower than what we were talking about from an interest rate perspective back in December. Also, you as a town have set up your 26 budget and going forward in such a way that you've got the dollars earmarked in your budget to make these payments. So as we think about, okay, where the dollars going to come from to make the payments on the loan, you've already got those set up in your 26 budget and really have them and then some on a going forward basis. So we think about that, we call that debt affordability. You have it set up already in the 26. Today's the first day, I guess, of that fiscal year, and so that is already built in there. And so again, you see the difference there in terms of payments. Again, I'll repeat myself maybe just one more time in that while both options work, they both fit within your budget, they both fit within the planning. We think it makes a little more sense for the longer amortization and the fixed rate with First Bank, knowing also it's prepayable with no penalty. So if we can go one more page. We'll talk a little bit about process and then happy to answer any questions. So here obviously tonight to present this to you, your bond counsel, Sands Anderson Ashley, will have a resolution after this that pending your approval would allow us to continue forward with the steps. There are a couple more things we need to do. We've submitted on your behalf an application to the Local Government Commission, the LGC, so that's in process. Takes them about a month to work through it. There'll be a couple of the documents we need to get them, but that's certainly in the works. And their approval, which this loan would require LGC approval, would occur on August 5th. So basically we've met their deadline for application. Their next meeting, absent the July meeting, is August 5th. So they would take this up for approval at the August 5th meeting. We've spoken with them, with your staff. They seem very favorably inclined. They've been in the loop through this whole process of the police station. So we've given all that. It is technically, though, subject to their approval. The other thing we'll need to work through over the next month is just final credit approval with the bank. They've looked at everything. They've given us very positive indications that there shouldn't be a problem. Technically, it's not yet finally credit approved, and so we just need to make sure we make that clear, but we're not expecting any surprises as we talk this evening. And then the last thing is just working up the final legal documents that Sands Anderson will do on your behalf. Those will come back to you at August 5th, so you will see another action at your August 5th meeting for all the final details in terms of documentation. But the loan itself and the bidding is fixed and known right now at that 4.5%. So really, we've got about a month, again, pending any questions and your approval this evening, whereby we'd work through all those final processes. You'd have one more approval to do on August 5th. The LGC, meaning Local Government Commission, would do the same thing. And then we'd close, have funds in hand, basically by the middle of August on the 19th. So with that, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions right now?
Is there anything really holding us back from going ahead and making a decision on this?
We have to do our
As much as the decision we can make?
This is just a presentation, but
Yeah.
right after this, we're going to open a public hearing to discuss it, and then we could potentially make a decision to move forward on something then.
Sounds good.
Any other questions right now? Don't go far.
We'll hang around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move into public hearings. We have two tonight. Neither one of them are quasi-judicial, so you won't need to be sworn in if you'd like to speak for it. We'll have them present it to us, and then I'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to speak, we'd love for you to do so. We ask that you use the microphone. I know it's a little awkward, but unless you're in this room, nobody will ever hear what you had to say. So we'll start with number one, police station project, and our town manager is going to introduce that to us, and then I'll open the public hearing.
Gotta be able to see. Good evening, Mayor, Board. Basically, we're opening the public hearing for consideration and approval of resolution to select the approved lender.
All right, with that, I will open the public hearing. And the public may make comments, or we may have questions, or this is your opportunity if you have an opinion on this. Sir, please join us up here.
Chuck Carey, 203 Blair Drive, Andrew. I had a question for the gentleman. Is this like a construction loan where there'll be inspections and interest only, like a regular home or commercial construction loan. They'll release funds as things get done. And then it's a turn into a perm at that point.
It's a good question. Yeah.
They release all the funds at closing, so those are the towns at closing. And the rate's fixed, and so there's no drawdown period.
So
There's
the
no
town can decide
inspections.
how to disperse as the project goes.
That's correct.
Mhm.
That's right.
Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with First Bank because I've done some. They do
Yeah.
a lot of construction loans. So, thank you.
Very good. Yeah.
Well, thank you. So correct me if I'm wrong, but to clarify that, if this goes through and is approved, then the town will get that money or have access to it in a lump sum at the onset and have independent control of how it's dispersed throughout the project.
Yeah, that's right. It'll be in an account at First Bank, but you would have control over how it's dispersed
Okay.
over that time period.
Yep. And that's really good. I'm glad you asked that question because having it construction loan style could slow things down even more. So, thank you. Any other questions? I'll just say in the public hearing part of it, there's a lot of options. So thank you very much for that hard work and to arrange 6 of those for us and kind of spell it out for us. My experience in this extends only to buying a couple of houses in my lifetime that I've lived in. And so I'm far from an expert on this. I appreciate your input. I like a fixed rate. I think probably most of us in this room, and certainly many who will watch this later, have experienced what an adjustable rate can do and how it could sneak up on you. So I like a fixed rate. I don't mind a 20-year term, especially given that we have full flexibility to refinance, pay off more per year, pay off in a lump sum, pay off chunks. This is a 20-year investment into the town. This board will change several times in that period. The financial status of the town will change, hopefully for the better, but you never know. And so having flexibility like that is very important to me, at least. Any other comments from public or board?
I'm extremely proud to see First Bank holding that #1 spot. Local business matters to me. I think it's important, especially when it comes to having to communicate with them regularly, that you know who you're talking to. I think without a doubt we'll have regular conversations and they won't be strangers. And that is important to me. Of course, fixed rates and all of those other parts vary, especially in competition. But customer service plays a big part in it for me as well.
All right. Anyone else? I will close the public hearing and we'll move on a little bit. Ashley from Sands Anderson is going to talk to us about part A and B on our agenda here.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Anderson. I'm an attorney with Sands Anderson, and my colleague Paul Jacobson and I have been working with the town as bond counsel on this proposed financing. I have 2 resolutions for you to consider, and I have some paperwork. What is your pleasure for me to pass them out both at the same time or one at a time?
Same
Okay.
time, as long as we can see them.
I don't want to overwhelm. The goal is not to overwhelm. If you're overwhelmed,
Our agenda tonight is 126 pages, plus the 2 that were handed to us when we got here, so we'll probably be okay. Thank you. Great, that is helpful.
So the first resolution you have before you is you are approving the selection of First Bank as the bank for this financing. If that is your pleasure, feel free to move on that. If you have any questions, direct those to Kyle.
All right. Let's discuss amongst the board then. What are your guys' thoughts on which lender to select? Yeah.
I know there are hands on banks.
Yeah. They're right there, right?
Oh, that way. That
Oh,
way.
that's right.
Yeah, right beside Carter.
I don't know where anything is. I'm sorry.
So you need a motion to adopt the resolution?
Yes, assuming you want to select First Bank and move forward.
I make a motion.
All right.
State first bank.
Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's unanimous. Let's do B.
All right. Your second resolution sets out the required findings necessary to submit an application to the local government commission and authorizes your town manager and your finance officer to submit those applications and answer any questions the LGC may need. It also authorizes and approves Sands Anderson to serve as your bond counsel on this and Davenport and Company to serve as your financial advisor. If you have any questions about what those findings are, I'm happy to talk through those. They are very standard for each application that's submitted.
Any questions from the board? I'll
I'd like
entertain.
to make a motion to move forward with the second resolution.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is unanimous. Thank you.
We will be back in August with a final agreement for y'all to consider.
We're excited.
Thank you.
All right, Derek, you have Part C or Bobbitt Construction. Somebody's going to speak to us about Part C so we can do our part to keep this rolling.
Thank you, First Bank. I know they're listening.
No, they rock. Yeah, we're in good hands.
Good evening again, Board, Mayor. I'm not certain if we need to open this process for a public hearing or not, but we can do it if you guys, at your pleasure.
Let's just, are you guys all right with it? Let's just play it safe.
Okay. I'm
going to
here-
open a public hearing.
Yes. Yep. Open up public hearing for the consider and approve guaranteed lump sum price from Bobbitt Construction.
Okay. Is Bobbitt here tonight? Then you're going to have to tell us about it, Derek. Because I know you're the one who has been hammering this down, so
Yes,
there's
sir.
no one better.
Gone are the days of sitting.
This has been a long, grueling process, and we went right down to the wire on Friday afternoon. But we've gotten to the point where we feel really good about the price we're getting, and so basically, if you guys can approve this action tonight, I can reach out to Bobbitt tomorrow, and they will start scheduling subs and getting contracts out to subs. So whenever we secure the loan funding on August 19th, we're hoping to have equipment and boots on the ground shortly after that. So that's the goal. That's the whole point of being here tonight. And this is all this approval is all contingency on the loan final closing going through on August 19th.
So
Any
just
questions?
to confirm, it sounds like it's going up. Fortunately, it's gone down. We started at 8.145 just a little while ago. Every opportunity I've gotten to, I've told you we are not going up in that price. So I was really pleased to see that they have a guaranteed lump sum price of $6.9 million, less $454,000 that has been paid to date for services already rendered. So certainly 6.9 less that 6.4 is much more. I'm glad to see. Yes, I'm glad to see it going down.
Yeah.
You worked very hard.
Yeah, and
Thank
this
you
is
so
and,
much.
and with that being said, this price is Bobbitt's part of it. There's other
Right.
Yes.
stuff that's
Right.
involved.
And I want to point that
the
out so you
FF&E
don't let
part,
it
yes.
so you don't let it gloss
Yes,
over.
and Davenport does not do their services for free,
Right.
as neither
Mhm.
does Sands Anderson. So part of this process
Yeah.
is paying them too. So,
But Derek, I know
some
you've
of the
been.
other
I know
costs, but
you and staff have been working really hard
it's
on this
been- yes.
behind the scenes.
A lot
I know
of phone
they're.
calls, a lot of meetings. Yes, a lot of back and forth.
But
and
I know that you guys have moved some line items like landscaping and some other things that we feel like we can handle in house with cash as part of our normal budget.
Yes.
Which I really appreciate because what that does is get our loan amount down. so we're paying less interest on it. So it's important to note that, like you said, this max price is what we are paying Bobbitt Construction. There's still some outside of that we need to pay, but still in total, we're under what our approved maximum was.
Absolutely.
So I
And
appreciate the creative accounting.
I mean, as you guys know, we have a lot of other projects that we've got to tackle besides the police station, and any money we can save on the police station without cutting corners, that's what we want to do.
Yeah. All right, well, we're in a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak or ask a question? With that, then I'll close the public hearing. Any discussion amongst the board?
I make a motion to approve the guaranteed lump sum price of $6.92340, less $454,172 paid to date from Bobbitt Construction for design and construction of our new police station headquarters. I'm reading it. Contingent on closing of financing on August 19th, 2025.
I missed that. Could you repeat it? Well, it's on the record, I'm sure. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is unanimous. Go forth. Let's build a police station here soon, hopefully.
Yes. Thank you, Derek.
All right. Jeff is going to present to us public hearing number 2 is a rezoning request. I will let him present that to us, and then I'll open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Tonight we have a little unique rezoning, which is a down zoning. This is a request by the Warren Family LLC, Gregory family, specifically Warren Gregory. This is property along east of town, along 210. This is the self-storage facility on 210. This is Spring Village behind here. Recently, Mr. Gregory carved out a 2.28 acre tract to go back to residential zoning. He has found that there's environmental issues with this part of this tract and that it will most likely never be commercial. And so he would rather it be combined with other farmland or other residential opportunities that are further to the east with properties that his family owns. So he is requesting for you all to go from general commercial to RA30 in his request here. This was, so here it's vacant. You can see on the map, it's on the screen, it's currently general commercial. This was rezoned several years ago in anticipation of some commercial opportunities, and that came to fruition with the self-storage, and there is still some additional land that could be developed between this property and the self-storage, so that's to come. But this property here is just not ripe for commercial development. Land use plan has this designated as commercial. That was a designation that was precipitated because of the zoning. If we look prior to the zoning changing, this land was designated for residential. So this sort of reverts back to that 2018 land use designation. Staff's recommendation is to approve. Planning board did make a recommendation to approve at their June planning board meeting, and our newly appointed or elected chair is here if you have any questions for him, Mr. Blake. If not, you can open the public hearing.
I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Jones. And thank you for giving us a little history, because that was a question that I was going to have, is kind of the history of how this has been rezoned and how the land use plan has kind of followed it.
Right.
But where we were maybe in 2020 with what that property would be. Right. Does anyone have any questions for Jeff while he's standing here?
Yes, sir. So this is I summarized in my presentation, but it's not in keeping with our current land use plan.
Mm-hmm.
However, the 2021 update to the land use plan modified our 2017 original plan that had this parcel designated as
Mhm.
medium density as the surrounding area is, and that this rezoning request would not have an unreasonable impact on the surrounding community and will not harm public health, safety, and welfare. And it's our recommendation to approve.
So Jeff, if this goes to RA 30, then how many homes could be built on this without a special use permit?
So
or?
it would be a 30,000 square foot minimum.
Mhm.
And so you're probably looking at maybe 2 to 3, but
Okay.
Again, with some environmental challenges, Mr. Gregory's thinking possibly 1, maybe 2 at the most.
Yeah.
So
And anything more as far as multifamily, that would have to come across our desk again.
correct. RA 30 does not allow multifamily.
Okay. I asked that to point out that a
Absolutely.
decision on this tonight
Yes.
is pretty simple one, and if multifamily is intended, it will cross our desk again.
It will, yes.
I've got questions for Mr. Blake if he's here. Not really specific ones, but I'm curious to know kind of very quickly what the planning board's opinion was and how they arrived at it.
Okay, so I'm Everett Blake, 352 Gardner Road. It's a pleasure to be back to serve the town as the chairman of the planning board again. When we looked at this actually made a lot of sense. If you know the character of the property, if you've ridden by there, it would be very difficult for a large-scale business to try to pop into that area. It had been residential previously. It has some residential behind it with a much heavier zoning than this. Looking at that piece of land, there's actually very little. If you can get 2 to 3 at the most, I would say 2. It's only 2 new driveways on 210, which would be I would imagine, be very doable by DOT. Matter of fact, the board discussed it very minimally. It didn't have a whole big conversation, but that is one of the things I will try to do from now on. Is after the planning board hears a hearing, I will come to the next town meeting for any questions or feelings or comments about what the board voted on. So, but this one did not take a whole lot of conversation.
Yeah, that's always been my concern with these properties along 210 is how much traffic will we be adding to that, and it sounds like this is about as minimum as it gets for any development of this property. So,
and in order to do any additional homes, they would have to come back and rezone or ask for something different, which also means there is a limitation of at least a year before they could reapply.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Blake while we got him here? Any other comments from the public? We are in a public hearing, so that's what we're here for tonight. All right, then I'm going to close the public hearing. Any discussion amongst the board on this one?
30. Yay.
RA 30.
I'm sorry. I had to.
I don't know that we've had anyone bring us an RA 30.
No.
Okay.
Pleased.
Well, this would be a nice one. All right, well,
I make a motion for the approval of the rezoning request submitted by Gregory's Farm, our family property.
all right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is unanimous. Thank you, Mr.
Board.
Jones. All right. We're moving along. New business number 1. We've got some advisory board vacancies to fill. We're going to do a couple of interviews, and then hopefully we'll nominate and appoint some people. Let's do ABC board first. We have one applicant. It's Mr. Howard Babbitt.
Would you like me to introduce?
Well, yeah.
Okay. So we currently have one vacancy for the ABC board. This is for a term expiring in December 26, and one vacancy for the Harnett County Library Board of Trustees. They have new bylaws. They have to have a recommendation to be reappointed, and that will be expiring in December 2027.
All right. ABC board. So the term, this is to fill an unexpired term from someone who's recently resigned. And in the agenda, it says both 2025 and 2026, but it is until December 2026. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. All right, Mr. Howard Babbitt, I see you have joined us tonight. Would you mind subjecting yourself to a couple of questions?
Howard Babbitt, 56 East William Street, Andrew, North Carolina. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you have questions, or are you?
To be fair, I'll allow you to tell us a little bit about yourself if you'd like to.
I own and operate 2 local businesses here in town. We've been in Andrew for a little over 20 years now. We have mobile home communities here in and around Anger, and we also have Carolina Trash Pickup here in Anger that we service the local communities, and Anger's being one of our favorite customers as well. I've previously served on the ABC board. Was here 20 months ago. Didn't go the way I'd like, but I tried to make sure it was a smooth and easy transition. And I'd like to see the ABC board continue to support the community, which, you know, I've never criticized any previous boards. I've asked them not to criticize our previous board, but I'd like to help continue to take the mission on that they had with the local community being the beneficiary of the revenues from the ABC.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Babbitt? Thank you, sir. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you're aware of the times of the meetings and if your schedule accommodates.
My schedule, I own my own business. I work 24/7. So I'll
Absolutely.
work around it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Well, he's our only applicant, so if you guys would like to, let's go ahead and
I'll go ahead and nominate Howard Babbitt to serve on the ABC board to complete a term expiring in December 2026.
Before we vote on that, I'd like to say I did not mean because he's the only applicant we don't have a choice. He has served on this board before, and I think he's an honest person, and I am happy that he is back to volunteer for this. Kind of glad that you are the only applicant. It makes the decision very easy in a good way to me. So I wanted to put that out there. Any further discussion? Then all those in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Thank you, sir.
for volunteering, sir.
All right, we have Harnett County Board of Trustees. We have one applicant for that, and that is Miss Elaine Blackman.
I'm Elaine Blackman. I live at 840 Benton Street here in Anger, and I come before you asking for reappointment to the Harnett County Library Board. My 3-year term just ran out. We were unprepared for that at the board level, so this is kind of a last-minute thing. We have new programming for the next 3 years that I'm involved with, and I'd just like to continue the opportunity to help us to roll that out.
Well, thank you for that interest. Any questions for Ms. Blackman?
Is the Board of Trustees naming different than it was previously?
The county did a little bit of change.
Okay.
So it's the Board of Trustees.
Okay.
And I will be if this goes forward, I am the chair-elect.
Okay.
To that board.
And can you tell me, does your position differ from what you were doing previously, or is it kind of name only that's changing?
It's really just it's just different terminology.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you the only representative of Anger on that?
I am the only representative of the town of Anger. However, there are some other ward positions which will be appointed and dealt with at a different time. But the library itself has the opportunity to appoint someone, and that's what this position is.
Okay.
But there are other positions throughout the whole county, and so
those are kind of done in-house within the library. Does those?
That is their recommendation.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
I make the motion.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. There it is. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. We got a lot to do, and there's a lot of opportunity.
Thank you for being willing.
For it. Yeah. All right. We are going to move on to new business number 2. There's a resolution to fix a date for our annexation public hearing, and Mr. Jones is going to join us again for that one.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. This is a resolution to affix a public hearing date for an annexation of property along North Raleigh Street. It's where the new commercial buildings are going. So this is sort of clean up on some annexations that we need to take care of. If you fix a date for August 5th, we'll hold the public hearing, and then you all can adopt the ordinance to annex the property.
All right. Any discussion? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I move to set the date for the public hearing for the annexation petition submitted by the town of Angier for August 5th.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is unanimous.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, sir. Number 3, Kristen is going to speak to us about the capital project ordinance for southwest drainage mitigation measure number 3.
Mayor and Board of Commissioners, you have a capital project ordinance in front of you for the Southwest Drainage Project. We need to adopt this to get this project completed. My understanding is it's necessary for the police station that's about to be constructed.
All right. Well, this is not our first capital project ordinance, and I like them. Wherever we need them, let's have them.
Okay.
Any questions or discussion from the board? Then I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we do the capital project.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is unanimous. Number 5, NCDOT speed limit ordinance. Brandon, did I?
The big contract for drainage.
Yeah, Brandon's back to back here, so he can cover that number 4 as well.
Okay. Whatever you say.
Yeah, we needed you guys to adopt the capital project ordinance first. Now you need to accept the contract terms.
Gotcha.
Evening, Mayor, Board. You'll find the recommendation to award the contract from Gradient, the engineering firm for the MM3 project, to Temple Grading and Construction. What we need from you all is the notice to proceed with the contract.
All right. Any questions for Brandon on this one? So we advertised for 3 bids. We didn't get that many. We rebid it, and we've ended up with this one bid for this project. What did we expect it to be around?
So the engineer's estimate was around 1.3.
Okay.
As you see, this came in a little bit higher than that.
Mhm.
We've had discussions, so we do have funding available, you know, a little bit coming out of the utility fund for the utility relocations, and then the remainder coming out of the general fund for the streets part of it.
All right. It's disappointing to see it over an estimate, but, you know, for me, our priorities as an entity of the town are water, sewer, get the stormwater out of here.
Yes, sir.
For me, you know, almost any reasonable number would be fine to start working on this stuff. So
Yeah, drainage is a high priority right now. I think we all
yeah,
recognize that.
well, we've had a lot of rain this year. I don't know if it's abnormal or what, but you know, this is certainly a big step towards addressing some of that. So, any discussion amongst the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the Southwest Drainage contract.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is unanimous. All right. Now we can do number 5, right?
That's correct. So,
Well, what I have is 5. Speed limits. Go for it.
So, DOT has brought to our attention that they would like to reduce the speed limit along Kennebec Church Road from NC 55 to the Harnett County line, just past the Kennebec Crossing subdivision. It's currently 45 miles an hour. They'd like to drop it to 35. And my understanding is we need you guys' approval to do that.
So to be clear, because when I read the agenda the first time through, I was a little scared. We are not touching the speed limit on Highway 55,
No, sir.
only on
Kennebec Church Road.
Kennebec Church Road there, which you know in the past was a lot quieter, but right now certainly with the new development, the gas station
Absolutely,
is a lot more traffic there. So, all right.
And this is coming from DOT.
Yeah, this came from
This
DOT.
is
This
this
has
is
nothing to do with
DOT
the town.
generated here.
Is DOT making the recommendation to Wake County or Fuquay for the same thing for the other part of it that's in Wake County?
No, this is for Wake County.
I mean, this is, it says for the Harnett County line, so it's
So from NC 55, which is in Wake County,
Right.
to the Harnett County line.
to meet what's already existing.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yep.
You got
So
it.
the balance is already 35.
Right.
That I'm not sure, but it's a very short section. I mean, it's probably less than 100 feet from the
Yeah.
county line to the stop sign.
To the
The
stop
Rawls
sign.
Church.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
You have one sign going one way, one sign going another. So.
Yep.
All right. Any discussion or questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to change the speed limit as prescribed in the presentation from Brandon.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is unanimous. Number 6, Derek is going to speak to us about the Community Development Advisory Board.
Everett, you could have stood right there. You didn't have to move. Why you move forward? All right. First of all, I appreciate everybody's comments and public comment about the Community Development Advisory Board. So as you guys know, and some of you may not know, we do not have a community development coordinator position anymore. That was dissolved before I became town manager. We have a events and marketing coordinator now. And when that person got hired, there was not a lot of direction or foresight into exactly what that position needed to be, or what the definition of that position. We feel pretty good about where we're heading in that direction. We've had some growing pains there. We've had some hiccups. Nothing's ever perfect when you're trying to transition and you're trying to change something. But we do have our events and marketing coordinator under Parks and Rec. They're in the Parks and Rec building because a lot of our events are piggyback with Jack Marley Park, with piggyback off the Parks and Rec department. So the Parks and Rec have absorbed that position into their department. And we already have a Parks and Rec advisory board with 7 members. With that being said, we're always excited about people that want to volunteer and help. We don't discourage that at any point, and we're not trying to destroy the community development. You know, we are partnering with Harnett County for economic development, which is kind of similar but kind of different at the same time. But I want everybody to understand that we're not we're not in the process of trying to eliminate volunteers or discourage volunteers. It's just that since we already have a Parks and Rec advisory board and we don't have a community development coordinator anymore, we felt like that, you know, we don't need 2 boards for one department. With that being said, we do have 3 positions out of the 7 coming off in December on the Parks and Rec advisory board. We would encourage anybody that wants to be involved with that to be involved with that, because we are going to talk about events. They're going to talk about, you know, the community, not just Parks and Rec stuff. It's going to be all encompassing. And we're in the process of trying to figure out exactly how we want to do that. But we already have 1 member that's on the Community Development Advisory Board and the Parks and Rec Advisory Board.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if his term's up in December or not. Chuck, is your term up in December? Okay. So, but no, I want everybody to know that I'm not against community development at all, or the advisory board. It's just that we don't want to put too much on our Parks and Rec department, because they have a lot of growth going on as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we just felt like at this point, it wouldn't be beneficial to continue with that board. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like I said, we would encourage volunteers to help get involved. They don't have to be on a board to be involved. Mm-hmm. And we would encourage anybody that's interested to apply for the 3 seats that are open in December.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Derek.
Could we go from 7 maybe to 10? Have a board of 10? Since there's a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing there is we want to make sure when we have meetings, people show up for those meetings,
Right.
so we can have a quorum.
Right.
I know in the past there's been issues with attendance, what I've been told, and I've been told that, I don't know.
Right.
With the attendance for the Community Development Advisory Board, there's always attendance when you're dealing with volunteers. There's always attendance issues. people have families that get in the way, they have jobs that get in the way, have other activities that get in the way. I get it, you're a volunteer. You know, we're not going to force you to be somewhere that, you know, where you volunteered for.
Mhm.
So that's at your pleasure. If you think we need 9 or 10, we've got 7 now. If y'all think we need 9 or 10, so be it. The only penalty or negative from that would be making sure we get enough to have a quorum and to have a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
That's
if
it.
we have 3 that are coming off, and we add 3, that's, how many people are still on the board for the community development? There's 8.
So, you know, from my perspective, we had some staff turnover both directions between December and January. And it's happened before in the town, you know, before I was here, that sometimes it gets lost what everybody's role is. I'll be honest, I feel, you know, somewhat responsible myself, and maybe as a board, for not clarifying everybody's role, because I think everybody has just been moving forward since the beginning of the year with assumptions of what their roles are and not really clear. And I think personally that has been the root of, you know, so much confusion between staff and that board. It's really promising to see the members, 3 tonight that came to speak at public comment, that people are still on that board and very much care to be on that board. That board is, you know, if you want to give back to the town in the most touchy-feely way, you know, what feels the most tangible and the most productive, I mean, that's the board. That's the board where you get to help with all the fun stuff in the town. I think it would be a shame to dissolve it, and I hope that we would find some way, because the roles of that board were important, to be a liaison between the people and staff and us on events and downtown suggestions, and, you know, to be a vessel to move that information so that we could be aware of outside input other than what we see ourselves. I don't know that dissolving it is the right answer. I think whatever is decided tonight, we need to find some way forward, especially for these most dedicated people, to play a role in a similar capacity. If we did keep the board together, you know, before there are any other meetings of that board, then this board, staff, everyone, in some fashion, I don't know what that would look like, need to sit down and clearly define everybody's role in that system. Otherwise, everyone's just kind of shooting in the dark, and it's not working. So I don't anticipate that I'll have a vote on this tonight, but I wanted to offer my opinion on it. So
I think communication was missed, unfortunately. Communication is a big part of misinformation. I was disappointed to hear they weren't notified of this potential option before seeing it, or hearing rumblings of it, because it's been brought up. You know, I'm hearing it's going away, and it's been, you know, kind of ongoing for months. And so I will say, you know, we are extremely fortunate to have one of the strongest chambers of commerce in the county. And that's, maybe I'm a little biased. Can I read from the website? The Community Development Coordinator is the staff liaison to the Angier Community Development Advisory Board, a board created by the Town Board of Commissioners to provide guidance and support to the Town Board for both economic and community development. The Community Development Advisory Board includes 9 appointed members, as well as volunteers with representation from the local business community, area churches, and town residents. The board recommends activities and projects that bring businesses and residents together to nurture pride in our town and sustain growth and economic well-being for years to come. I would, to the members of the CDAB who are interested in business growth, economic development growth, to engage with our chamber. While I don't want to see this go away, I also don't want to see motivated people be turned away. I think that's where we're getting to, and I don't want to be a part of that. I understand we don't have a community development coordinator any longer. No matter the name of the position, that's the goal, right? To connect the community, the businesses, and the residents all in one fell swoop as best we can, and nobody ever quite gets it right. We have a lot of meaningful members of that board, and it's disappointing. We're getting here. I understand the why. Does the Parks and Rec board know that they're going to be taking on events?
I have no idea.
Somebody better notify them. Because that's a whole other, I mean, they didn't sign up for Parks and Rec to do events, you know, so I would argue there's some middle ground that needs to be found there, and I don't know who's going to be that mediator.
Can we take maybe till August? We can actually talk to department heads and Parks and Recreation and talk to Kayla and come up with a plan instead of just going and dissolving everything.
I mean, it would be nice to have already decided a way forward after whatever that decision is.
I mean, that's your pleasure.
Yeah.
I mean, your decision. That's why I'm standing in front of you. I mean,
When's the last time the CDAB met?
no idea.
Anybody?
Okay, so it's been 2 or 3 months. May.
Can
Okay.
I ask who informed you of that? The board who went and told y'all that it was dissolved?
I for one would be in favor of tabling it in the hopes that it would also include a solution.
We need volunteers. We need volunteers.
But we
If
need
people wanna be on this,
leadership of the volunteers as well.
We do.
And that's where that's kind of
We do.
how we got to this point is because we had to make some decisions, and you know, look, that's why I'm standing in front of you guys. Because I mean, we have a lot on our plates as a staff, and you know, when you take on more and more and more, other things get lost in the cracks. So we want to make sure, you know, that we're being efficient with everything that we do. And like I said, I'm never going to be against volunteers. I've dealt with volunteers for 26 years in Parks and Rec.
Oh, well, arguably the volunteers are being told they're not needed. I mean, that's essentially where we're at. Is the volunteers who show up are being told, meh.
And I don't like that. That's something.
Well, I mean, you can say that. You can say that, but at the same time, you know, I'm not saying they do or they don't, but how many volunteers really show up?
Well, before you do that, I would say, you know, that we're not here tonight to point blame one way or the other, because ultimately there is no direction from us on the new faces and the new direction of what everybody's role is. So if it kept the board together, that would absolutely need to be something that we sorted out from the staff's end on who would manage it, and then what our board ultimately expects that every person's role is in that system.
Right. And I mean, and you know, in all honesty, it just kind of fell in my lap. And I tried to make what I thought the best decision was for everybody moving forward.
Yeah.
And that's
I've heard
agree with
I've
that.
heard complaints from either side
Yeah,
of
I
it,
mean-
and it just remind I
Yeah.
have 3 kids that are starting middle school, and it's like, okay, all right, none of that is important. What's important is that the root of all of it is that people are unsure what their role is, and either
Right.
they're not being responded on what their expectation was, or the other way around. And I feel like that's something we could fix one way or another, but I don't,
I think there have been many efforts to try to resolve issues, communication being largely one of them. Can you explain why you think this is the best suit, just in your perspective? Why dissolving it would be the best option?
I just feel like we don't have staff in place to be able to provide the communication and the leadership that it would need. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm just basing it on, like I said, the turnover that we've had, the turnover that happened, whether it be that position that was dissolved, a new position, whatever, I've been pretty hands-on the past couple months with our events. And I've tried my best to support our events and to help and assist with those events. And like I said, I'm never going to be against volunteers. That's not the case at all. I'm trying to get everybody going in the right direction and not have this advisory board or this committee pulling one way and another committee pulling another way, another board pulling another way. I'm trying to get everybody to move in the right direction. Like I said, I'm all for people wanting to be involved. I'm all for the community being, involved at all times. I mean, that's what makes Anger what it is. I mean, some of these concerts have been great. A lot of our events are really, really, really well ran. And it's thanks to volunteers like you guys. I'm not saying this. So don't think that I'm anti-advisory board of any sort. It's just, I agree with you that we need to be organized and we need to have the proper communication. Well, when you organized and proper communication means we need to have the proper direction first. And if you guys want to be involved in helping with that, I'm all for it.
Derek, do we have to direct the volunteers as to how they want to organize themselves to volunteer, as long as we allow a position where they can at least speak with the town and make recommendations? They can volunteer on their own, and we have nothing to do with that, except for we are open to their desires. If they see something coming they want to get involved in and want to do, there's no reason why they can't go ahead and volunteer for that and work with the town and basically do it on their own and not have to have the direction of the town. All we have to do is have an open door with them to listen to them once a month or once every quarter as to what they want to do.
I understand that. I mean, I kind of agree with Chevelle. The chamber's a really good outlet there as well.
I mean, I know once a week that position, the events position, is in the chamber office communicating. She's a member of our ambassadors committee. She's ex officio on the board. She's very involved with the chamber in terms of, stemming a lot of volunteers and resources there as well.
Well, here's it just occurred to me while you were talking, still. Could we, and I don't know, is Shelby still here? Shelby's still here. All right, Shelby, I'm about to ask something of you. Could we figure out a way to kind of co-op and coordinate and maybe partner our community development advisory board with the chamber, and we have a staff member involved with that, to kind of piggyback off of each other? I mean, because a lot of our events cross over. Shelby knows. I mean, and Shelby's wonderful.
Say it
so
again.
That's on the record. Shelby's wonderful. So, but
she's been a
she
huge
cares
volunteer
deeply about Anger, as do I.
for
And that's if
event.
we could somehow come to some sort of some type of partnership or something. And like I said, I'm open to suggestions, guys, because this kind of all just fell in my lap, and I'm trying to make the best of the situation. Is what I'm trying to do. And this is why I wanted to bring it to you guys. And maybe dissolve the Community Development Advisory Board was a poor choice of words on my part.
Well, look, to be fair, Derek, it had to come
But we
to some
needed-
kind of head
we
for
needed
us
this
to
discussion.
take some action.
We needed this discussion.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's, I mean, anytime we're talking about people wanting to be involved, it's a healthy discussion.
It sounds like that the previous meetings they had, from that point until now, they haven't, did you say there's been only, the agenda was made, but the minutes were not posted? If I were you guys, I would go ahead and meet and do the things that you've been doing until there is a cutoff date or until we dissolve and bring you guys in. Whatever the decision we make, I would not stop on your end as to what you're doing, so that you have something for us to do.
Yeah, well, the town as an entity has to organize and oversee
because I mean
those
we're
official
using
meetings.
town resources when we have these events, so we have to make sure that you guys approve these events. We have to make sure that we have the resources to hold these events. We have to make sure everything logistics have to be in place, because we lean on the police department, we lean on Public Works, Parks and Rec, whoever else to kind of make all this stuff happen. But at the end of the day, I think tabling it's probably a good idea. I think I would like to get Austin with Shelby and me and have a meeting, and then kind of, advise you on what we come up with before the August 5th meeting, and then let you guys make a decision.
I would be in favor of that again, because I'd much rather have a plan forward at the same time.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean-
to utilize these people.
Yeah, like I said, my goal is to make sure we're not going 10 different ways.
Right.
My goal is that we're going the same way all the time.
And ultimately,
I mean, regardless
that's
of
up to
regardless
us.
of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And
that that burden rests on us here
Right.
to help staff and this board understand.
Yep.
And we've changed job titles and job roles and people in the seats, and so it stands to reason that excuse me, that the mission statement of this board is no longer relevant, and everyone's just kind of been doing the best they can. Are there?
Would you also please include someone from the existing CDAB in your meeting, just so that a perspective is given from the people who actually sit on that board?
Yes. No
And if you
question
have
about
any
that.
ideas or opportunities that you see, if you wouldn't mind emailing them, it's a good way to kind of keep it all in place. Those CDAB members that want to share their thoughts. It's kind of the point, right? So having differing perspectives. So dmclean@andrew.org. DW, excuse me.
And as somebody put on, and if you want to come talk to me in person, I'm always available according to the sign out
You
the
are.
door.
Yeah.
I don't know who wrote that. I'm always available. So I didn't write it, but somebody wrote it. So
All right, is there a motion on this one for right now?
There's a motion on the floor.
Was there an official one?
Yeah. I did.
Okay, sorry.
So, can we?
Yeah, let's do it. All those in favor, raise your right hand.
I'm
That's
gonna get my
unanimous.
thoughts out. We're not going to be cutting.
Thank you, Derek. You've got number 7 for us too, which is the WRAL weather camera.
yeah, I was informed by a local citizen that our WRA weather cam is no longer working. We came across an email from almost a year ago saying it had gotten hit with an electrical storm. And WRAL said that if we would pay for the camera, they would come and install it and make sure it was set up properly. The cost of the camera is about, got it right here.
$1924.93.
Yep.
Give or take.
$1924.93.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like it's good publicity for the town. So I'm here tonight to ask for you guys to approve the purchase of a new WRAL camera and let them come and install it and set it up so we get some pub from WRAL every now and again.
So really, that's the only question I had for you is, if we're going to spend money on it, which I'm not opposed to, but it would be nice to hear, what the benefit is, what we get for spending that. Is it pull with WRAL? I mean, what are the pros on this one? I mean, it's not a ton of money, but money's money.
Yeah, we get positive pub from them because they constantly show the weather cam in Anger. And it's a shot of the depot, I think, used to be.
Right, so they show the town, and people see it and say, what a beautiful little town. Maybe we ought to go check it out.
Look at that quaint little town there with a nice depot and a nice downtown area. And
right.
The weather's nice today, so maybe we didn't go visit down there. Might want to,
So the answer
might
is...
want to open a business down there. Might want to move down there.
And
you
in
never
the
know.
past, when we've had events, because we actually have somebody that works from there for WRAL, they actually live here. They've given us,
Little plugs.
Little plug.
Yes.
So what you're saying, Derek, is for the one-time expense of $1,924.93, we are getting economic development potential.
We certainly are.
That's what I wanted to hear.
We're getting community development potential.
We'll take all the plus. That was good. That was good. That was my only question, really, is to kind of put into words what we get out of this. So thank you. Any other questions?
So with that being said, I'd like to make the motion that for the approval of purchasing a new WRAL weather camera in the amount of $1,924.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. That is unanimous. And then we have added new business number 8, which is water meter purchase. I assume Brandon's going to bring that to us, or Derek? Okay. All right.
Brandon sent me an email this morning at 7 o'clock and saying that he don't know if he's got enough meters to last him to the next board meeting. So we threw this together real quick.
Okay.
And here it is in front of you. I will say this, one caveat on this, the meters did go up $10 a piece from the last time I was here in March. So that's how fast he's going through meters. I will say this as well, just so you guys know, our permitting technician told me that we sold more new home permits in 2025 than Fuquay Varina sold in 2024. So just so you know, that's how fast we're growing.
Eek.
I don't know if that's good or bad,
That's
but that's
physical,
an impressive
yeah.
number.
Exactly.
And she just
They're gonna start throwing things from behind you.
Hey, and our finance director just walked out, but she's been walking around all day saying Happy New Year to everybody. And
Fiscal. I get it.
Yes.
I get it. Accounting humor. Okay. All right, so I'll just say anytime we have a water meter purchase, I say it's so it's said anyway, but this is money out for things that we then sell and get that money back in. So ultimately, it's not a real, money out of our pocket type endeavor. So any other questions on this one?
Yes. So Brandon brought this to me this afternoon.
Okay.
Is this something, since it's in our day-to-day operations, is this something that you guys need me to come to you every time we need to order meters, 2 pallets of meters? I know we've got the $40,000 contract threshold.
Do you guys recall what the last couple of purchases added up to individually?
For meters?
Yeah, this one's
it's similar to this. It's
93.
Yeah, the last time it was $295 per meter. This is $305 per meter.
So I mean, Brandon, do you and Derek think that if we said $100,000 to purchase water meters at a time would be sufficient to serve that purpose? It's just I'm just looking at the numbers that
it might give us a
would have brought
bargaining
to
chip
us.
with the water meter company too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think. I mean, like I said, they just went up.
Yeah.
$10 a meter, and if Brandon tells them all we can go is $100,000, might give us a bargaining chip because we get it at pallets at the time, right, Brandon? And we get a better price when we get it per pallet, not per meter.
Right,
kind of.
and I think we can make some kind of policy, at least for water meter purchases, It's up to you guys ultimately.
And I don't
but-
have to stand up in front of you. And
Well, we like that.
Yeah.
You look good tonight, Derek.
Anytime we get you up there in the jacket. First,
Okay,
I'd like to move to approve the purchase of 288 new water meters for
Okay.
a total of $93,988.80. Let's do that first.
All right. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Opposed? For? So it is unanimous.
This is
then.
just to make the purchase of the water meters.
Just the purchase. Okay. All right. Is there discussion about making a very specific policy for this moving forward? You guys want to make that policy, or do you want it to come up here? It's up to you guys.
I want it to come up here. I want it to remain the same until we write up a policy, an official policy with guidelines and everything. Because it is a pretty big extension. It could get out of control. I said I would like for there to be, for us to go ahead and leave our plan the way we do it right now until we have set a policy as to how to purchase water meters, whether it comes to us or not. It's really a 3-minute presentation if we do need to have it. So it's not going to harm us to have that presentation, but spending that amount of money at one time could get out of control.
All right. Well, Dan and Derek, do you think you guys can put together what that piece of policy would look like for us to consider at the next meeting, maybe?
Sure.
And then we'll have it in writing, and we can review it all and see.
Okay.
All right. That is last of new business. We are going to move on to staff reports. Would any staff like to present their reports tonight? I will never stop asking. It's all in the agenda, guys. You can pull it up. Every department gives a report every month. Derek, since you sat back down, you're next. It says here with infrastructure project updates, which I would be comfortable with you doing from your seat, if you guys are.
let me find it.
So while he's looking for it, I believe this is in the agenda too. This is something that we started, I think, last year. It's kind of an all-in-one place for all of our projects and the progress that they are making. And I don't know that we need to go through it line by line. It's in the agenda. It's been updated. All of the projects is in the agenda. I believe it has been updated on the website recently too. So unless you have anything to add to it, Derek?
No, I mean, like I said, we're going to try to keep this updated monthly moving forward. I know it went a few months without being updated.
Well, there's not
and
always.
you were asked to speak at Kiwanis Club and asked
Right.
me to update it, and I had to find it first.
Yeah.
And once we found it, I feel like it's a good idea to keep everybody informed on all the projects that we have going, that we're completing, that we're about to start. That way, it answers questions a lot of times before they're asked. Hopefully.
Yeah.
But no, if you want to go out and take a look, the water tank over by Bulldog is coming up and looking really good. The first responders veterans memorial monument is up and going. Where the concrete's been poured. That's going to be really nice when they finish that. We should be getting the playground equipment delivered on site probably next week. You don't know how much the holiday is going to slow things down, but as soon as they get the playground equipment on site at Jack Marley Park for the handicap accessible playground, he said it's about 2 weeks, give or take a day or two, to get everything installed and up and running. So we should have that done. You guys made a real big step forward tonight with the police station and the water, MM3, Southwest Drainage. And that all kind of ties in together. If we don't do that Southwest Drainage, we probably can't do the police station. So, and we know that there's lots of areas in town that need improvement, whether it be facility, structures, drainage, whatever. Brandon's working really hard. The staff's working really hard to try to continue to move forward with all of our projects, and we're trying to do it in an efficient manner without it taking so long, and certainly with it being as cost effective as possible. But that's kind of where we're at with kind of a Cliff Notes version with all the projects we got going on, and we have numerous projects going on. So I encourage you to look it up on the website. If you have any questions, please reach out to us.
All right. Thank you, Derek. Next, it says Liz has an alerts and notifications tutorial.
Yes, this is very exciting. So it is currently our new mass notification system is up and running. I think we have about 300 people already signed up for our notifications, but I just wanted to do a quick little walkthrough. It would be nice and easy. All of this information is also on the website if anybody wants to go do the tutorial. It's pretty self-explanatory. So you just go to our website, and right there on the home page, it's going to say alerts and notifications, and you go ahead and click that. It'll take you to the resident portal page. On the left side, you'll just go ahead and click again, alerts and notifications. You'll click on that bell icon, which will be on the right, and then you'll be asked to create an account. You will just have to enter your email address, and I believe you can also add your phone here as well, but if you just want emails, you can just enter your email address. If you just want phone, you can actually send a text code out. I'll get to that. Enter your cell phone for text alerts. You can enter your cell phone or your landline for voice alerts. This will just send an automatic voicemail to your phone with all the same information that goes to the email and the text. So anybody who does not have a cell phone or an email, they'll still be able to utilize it. If you enter a cell phone number, you'll have to enter a verification code. You'll just get that through a text, kind of like any other authenticator. Click next. You'll have to enter your street address. This is just so that you can receive notifications that may directly affect your area, such as like a water line break or any kind of emergency, any road closures, etc. You do not have to provide your full address. You can just simply opt in and just put Andrew, North Carolina with the zip code. You'll still get all the text notifications and emails. You can also select your preferred language. There's over 50 languages that get translated, and this is also the voicemails get translated as well. Once you select your preferred written and spoken language, you click next. You just review everything, check the box so that you do actually subscribe to the notifications. And then you can choose to subscribe to all just on your main dashboard, or you can choose to subscribe to certain ones. So if you just want to know about community events, emergencies, public meetings, utility bill information, this is how you're going to get all of that information moving forward. Parks and Rec, anything like that. And then just important information, we do not receive any messages from this system. So if you have an emergency, just call either the town hall or the emergency line that I have listed right there. It just only is for us to send you notifications. We don't get anything back. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I got a text yesterday reminding me
know, it
that
was
we
my
have
first
meeting
one.
tonight. Yeah, and I was like, oh, thank you. That was convenient. Look, so sign up for this, guys. It is useful. If anybody has any trouble signing up for it, I imagine that you could reach out to anybody.
And Cecilia and I did our first in-person one. We have a sign-up sheet in the town hall. We can also do it over the phone, and it turned out pretty smoothly.
Right.
So
we're going to do
everybody's able
everything
use
we
it.
can to
Yes.
make sure that you get this. I'm very happy that there's voice option 2. So there's no excuse not to get signed up for that and be fully aware of everything that's going on all the time. All right. We'll do mayor and town boards real quick. This is where I get to do something fun and talk about birthdays and anniversaries and stuff. Staff birthdays this month is Officer Jaza, Andrew Police Department. Jackson Jones from Water and Sewer Department. Officer Langford, Andrew Police Department. Officer Manjalit, Andrew Police Department. Jerry Sutton from the Inspections Department. Anniversaries, Officer Koyala from the Andrew Police Department has been with us for 1 year. Ryan Burgess, Water Sewer Department, 4 years. Jackson Jones, Water and Sewer Department for 1 year. Sergeant Cornett, Andrew Police Department, 3 years. James Walker from Water and Sewer, 4 years. Sergeant Rose, Andrew Police Department, 11 years. Elizabeth McLean in administration for 1 year this month. So thank you guys. We have a lot of staff. That was a long month there. Events, fall sports registration will be open from July 14th through August 8th. I won't go through the list. There's a lot of them, but it's on the Facebook and the town page, so make sure you don't miss that. On July 11th, the town is having a Treats and Tales story time with a first responder between 10 and 11 a.m. at the depot. Also on July 11th, we've got a ribbon cutting for Furry Friends Fitness at noon at Jack Marley Dog Park. July 18th, a ribbon cutting for Beneath the Pines Massage Therapy, and that'll be at noon at 120 North Broad Street East. July 19th, a ribbon cutting for Pop Heaven Gourmet Popcorn, and that will be at noon at the Chamber of Commerce. I also want to point out we do have elections this year for Wards 1 and 3, as well as the unexpired term for Ward 2. I mention that because this month is the filing for those candidacies. If you would like to run for any of those seats, you must file with the County Board of Elections between July 7th at 8 a.m., and the cutoff is noon on July 18th. That's what I have. Anyone else want to add anything?
Yes, I'd like to extend our condolences to Commissioner Jim Kazakavage. He has lost his father this week, and that's why he's unable to be here tonight. Just to let him know that our thoughts and prayers are with him and his family.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Anybody else? Well, then with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, I would like to bring up.
Will you use your microphone?
Yeah. Before we adjourn, I feel as though that some of the town people that had come up and did public notice, they brought up some, or not public notice, with the public's opportunity to speak. They brought up a lot of issues concerning the information that was brought forward in the newspaper and the continuing information that rolls around the social media concerning the museum grant money. And because of that, I feel as though the Andrew Board of Commissioners should open an official investigation into what happened, how it happened, get as much information as we can, and then we can report back to our public as to what actually happened with this $100,000 grant money. Because there's a lot of things going around. I figure, like anything else, most of it is untruths or partial truths, but there are some truths to it. So we've got to figure out what it is and be diligent in handling, making sure that we've handled the money both properly and ethically. And we know that we've already lost a percentage, 43%, I think, or 48% of a $100,000 grant has
Andrew
been
has not
clawed
lost
back.
any of that money.
Well, the money was clawed back and used for
the
other.
library. It's a different entity.
Please clarify that if you don't mind.
The grant funding was through the Andrew Library, or the
Okay.
Andrew Museum, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The town of Andrew was not involved in that grant application, was not involved in the procurement process, was not involved in selecting the vendor to do the work. All of that is the Andrew Museum, which is a separate entity from the town of Andrew.
But it was done in a town of Andrew facility.
The town of Andrew, the Andrew Museum, back in like 2002 or something, the board voted to allow the Andrew Museum to use a portion of the town property for its facilities.
Mhm.
The grant money they received to renovate those facilities was a grant process that was done entirely through the Andrew Museum, not through the town. The only involvement the town had is that it was town property that was being worked on.
Okay. And therefore,
so the town,
I
town
feel
of
as
Andrew
though
did not lose any money.
Yeah,
Or
and
the
therefore, I
town does not
feel
be
as though
investigated.
that the town commissioners should do our due diligence to investigate and find out the truth about what's going on, rather than hear rumors and not be able to truthfully answer to the citizens when we're asked a question. And I don't think shining a light on what was done hurts anyone.
I 100% agree. I think a lot of the information is already known. There's, as you said, there's a lot of mistruth and misstatements out there on social media, as happens. We can certainly do an investigation. We would have to probably retain someone to do that. I could get some names and an estimate of how much that might cost, but it would require us to retain. I don't think I could do the investigation because it would be an investigation into the board and into board members, so I would be conflicted from doing that.
Okay, I think
but
we should at
certainly
least
could-
start that process.
Okay. I mean, if that's the will of the board, I can bring some names of some potential people to do that and some prices.
That would be great.
But I
Thank
think
you.
we would need to give them some scope of exactly what we want them to look into. We may not have the ability to investigate the grant process because we weren't involved in that process. So that would be the Andrew Museum. I don't know that we could compel the Andrew Museum to participate in any investigation, but we
And
can.
that would be fine. I mean, that, wherever this leads us is wherever it leads us to. It doesn't matter from this point where it leads us to. We just need to have the truth and the answers to give to the public. Because there's a lot of different opinions, there's a lot of different things going on.
What would you want to investigate then if the grant in the museum was not accessible through that investigation? What would the investigation encompass if not grant or museum?
Well, I would want to find out whether we are allowed to investigate first. That's the first step. If we check into it and we're not allowed to investigate or compel any information, then that's the information that we would have to give to our citizens when they ask the questions.
I can tell you now, we wouldn't be allowed to compel information from the museum.
We could ask for
we could
information.
ask them for information.
And if they didn't want to share the information,
Yeah.
that's up to them. I mean, it's an open air, it's a sunshine, it's bringing into the open air all the situations.
Sure. I know
right now is not a time for public comment and public input. That is going to be at the next meeting, especially about this, what I've brought up here. And I see that there's people in the community already wanting to raise their hand and say something. Unfortunately, I don't have the official capacity to allow them to do that right now because we're not in an open session for public comment. I think we could do that part at another time for the people who have raised their hands to show interest. But we need to get as much information as we can from or about this situation, about the complaints that have been made against town officials, against town employees, against elected officials, as well as just the facts on what happened, what's been going on. And that's just wanting to get that ball started.
May I ask how much money you're willing to spend on such an endeavor?
Well, we have to find out how much it costs first and then determine if it's of that value or not.
typically it would be, an hourly fee for the investigator, usually, 200 an hour. That may be low. I'm not sure what we could find, but, these investigations do sometimes add up. So I'd want to make sure, as I'm contacting potential investigators, to know sort of the scope of what we're asking them to look at.
Well, we don't have an official scope until we know what we're looking at. That's why we've got to get the principals involved, the information involved, pull it together for us. Then we take it to someone and let them find the truth. It's an investigation where it starts. I'm just suggesting starting the ball rolling.
Sure.
Costs, all that stuff hasn't been. This is a starting point. That's all it is.
Okay. I can bring back some names of potential investigators and at least an hourly rate so that we have a ballpark idea of what.
That'll be fine.
Would it be sensible for perhaps, because you do have some prior knowledge of it, to share what you know about? I wouldn't.
Sure. I can share what I know about it. Most of the facts are out there.
I don't think that right this moment is the time to do that. I think it needs to be at a time set aside for that after we've given the public the opportunity to ask their questions in writing or verbally in front of us. Either it doesn't matter how we want to do it, but then we will be able to know how far we need to go. We don't know if we're going down a rabbit hole or if we're going down a mole hole. We just don't know the difference right now.
I'm just curious what expense the taxpayers will have to pay before the rabbit hole is like the end of it.
Well, they don't have to pay anything until we know that there's a hole at all. This is just a starting point.
I'm just gonna throw this out there, because Denise did come up here today, Mrs. Galloway. Are you going to address any of her concerns?
I'm not sure what her concerns are.
Well,
she came up here and said that
exactly. I know
said
she's
something
she's
unethical,
wanting to.
and I don't
I
know what
understand
she's
that,
talking
but
about.
I know she wants to sit down and maybe discuss with you and the town manager or whatever.
Yeah, I mean,
and then
I'm
maybe
bound
we
by
could have.
attorney-client privilege is one problem, so I cannot sit down and discuss with a reporter a lot of things that I know as the town attorney because there's some attorney-client privilege at play. But I'm happy to sit down with her and share what's available publicly, which is most of it is public. But again, you know, I'm not sure what her exact accusations are. Because she walked out of the building as soon as she finished her comments.
We don't respond to comments generally during public comment. So,
well, I will respond to that though, because you know, I didn't want to interrupt public comments, but she left, and then there was someone else who got up and made a public comment. I waited for them to be done, and then I addressed it. So I've got nothing to hide. I'm not sure what her accusation is against me, but I've already sent her a.
But I'm sure you would like to know.
Related to this, so.
You would like to know what her accusation is, wouldn't you?
I would.
That's
yes.
what I would like to find out.
And I will be happy to ask her that if she's willing to share it with me.
If she's making unfounded claims, then we know that's where we're at.
Right.
I'm starting at a 0 point. I don't know. I'm starting nothing to nothing in this match. I just want to know so that I can answer to the people out here as to what happened with a piece of our town. It's not town money. Let's put it this way. Let's agree that it does matter because it's not town money, but it was set aside for the benefit of our town.
At the discretion of the Andrew Museum.
That's
for
fine.
The Andrew Museum to do the renovations.
It was set aside for the
Right.
benefit of the people of this town, and there's many people in town feel that it was not handled properly. That's what I would like to look at. I'm not delving into
Handled
anybody's
properly
personal
by
opinion,
who is the
personal.
question.
You are dealing essentially in feelings.
I think the county already did an investigation.
Here's the issue. The Andrew Museum got the grant money. The Andrew Museum made the decision on.
I'd like to hear Dan.
Who does the work? The Andrew Museum did whatever grant requirements they were required to follow. That's the museum's issue. The town of Andrew was not involved in that. So the involvement of the town was that they spent the money on town property, which was to the benefit of the town, and they chose Mayor Justice to do the work. The town was not involved in that process. So,
But it had there been
as a
any
member of the museum board, but not as a town commissioner.
Okay, let us before we start and go down this hole right now, let us number one accept the fact that this money would have been to benefit the citizens of Andrew.
We did
set
get
aside
the
for
benefit.
that.
We did get the benefit because we got the work done on our property.
We did get that much of it. We did not get all of the benefit because they clawed back almost half of it. Well, that's the information that is
the museum
publicized.
had to repay the state for the grant fund, but the money that the museum had already spent was to the town of Andrew.
Would that other money have been spent on our museum for our town in the future?
No, they had to spend it in a certain time frame.
They had to spend it. They could have done something here to the benefit of our citizens in Andrew.
In the museum. Within the time constraints of the grant.
And because of issues, now they can't. We just want to identify what those issues are.
Right. Well, again,
doesn't hurt anyone to know.
Yeah.
Those issues are not.
If the museum is willing to answer those questions, then we can do an
And
investigation of that.
if they're not willing to answer the questions, that answers some questions by itself. But if that's where it takes us, that's where it takes us. If that's the end of it, that's as far as we can go, then that's as far as we can go. At least we have an answer to give to the citizen. Right now, I can't answer the question when somebody asks me what happened to that. And
What's
who
the
was
question?
involved. Well, there's many questions. Multiple websites you can get on that.
Well, what are the
mention.
questions? Because he will need a scope of what the investigation
That
would be.
is what I'm asking to start. I didn't come in here expecting a conversation right now about it. I expected to start a conversation.
But if you're going to direct Dan to bring us information on what an investigation would cost, we'd have to give him the scope of an investigation that is relevant to the town's authority in investigating, and that hasn't already been investigated by a government investigative body. So what questions are left?
I'm sure that the public will be able to provide us with questions.
Well, do we want the public to provide our attorney on what to research for us?
I don't know. I can't answer that right now.
So then what would you direct Dan to
Okay,
do?
perhaps we shouldn't direct Dan to do any of it. Let's go the opposite way and let's let the public draw their own conclusions. And
I believe they're already
we
doing
don't-
that, Steve.
And that's what I'm wanting to stop. That's why if we can.
Oh,
look
that
at the
that
truth-
never stops.
Okay.
I'm
the opposition,
I'm happy to bring in
the
the
opposition
name, like I
to
said.
starting.
Welcome to
looking
politics.
at
That's
it
not I'm not
does
opposed to it. We just
answer a
need
lot
to
of
be clear
questions.
to our attorney what it is
Okay,
that we would like to investigate. Because I don't have anything to hide.
Okay, that's fine. Then, no one is saying that this investigation is you.
Mhm.
Then who is it?
It's members of this board. It involves our attorney's office. We have got town employees that have been implicated in it. I don't know who they are.
Hold on, implicated in upsetting the reporter or implicated in the
in not just upsetting the reporter, but in misstating of facts about what has happened.
Wait, did you just say
okay,
employees had been accused, but you don't know who they are? Hold on, I was just trying to understand.
At this moment, I don't know who they are.
Employees have been implicated, but we don't know who they are.
No.
Okay.
For the sake of time, I think the first thing we need to do, I think you need to reach out to Miss Galloway and just see exactly, because the lady that was here tonight, does anybody know who she was? That was with her? I mean, was that her attorney or?
I don't know.
There was also a second reporter in the audience as well.
Yeah. So my suggestion, I would just reach out to Denise and see if we can come to a common ground and resolve this.
Okay.
I mean, because that doesn't take any taxpayer money.
That's fair. I mean,
I
I'm
mean-
happy to reach out to Denise and ask her what.
That is my
what she's
entire
talking about.
comment. is
And the board
start
has the
a
liberty to
conversation.
meet with Miss Galloway too. I mean,
I
as
mean,
long as it's
or,
not a quorum, you know.
Yeah.
Well,
We can do that too.
She asked to be on the agenda, and we were not able to get her onto the agenda for a longer conversation. And we had to move, so she had 2 times the 3-minute time limit for public comment, so she could make her statement. But she asked to be on the agenda, and we were not able to get her onto the agenda. for
That
tonight.
is not correct.
Was she?
She at the end of the previous meeting, June 3rd, she came to me and asked, "What do I need to do to get on the agenda?"
Okay.
I said, "You need to email me exactly what your presentation is going to be. I will submit it to the elected officials and our town attorney, and then they decide what they want on the agenda."
And she did not do that?
She did not do that.
Well, that answers some of the questions right there. Verbally, she claimed she asked to be on the agenda. So it's just asking questions, guys.
That's
There's-
exactly how the conversation went. She said, "What do I need to do to get on the agenda for the July meeting?" And I told her, "You need to email me exactly what your presentation is going to be. I will forward it to the elected officials and to our town attorney, and the elected officials decide what is on the agenda."
Mhm.
That's how it went. And she said, "Okay."
Bottom line, once again, do you think maybe you could reach out to
I'll
her?
reach out to Denise.
And if she'd like to talk to any of the board members with y'all, just let us know, whatever. But I
Mhm.
think we need to have that conversation.
Okay.
Am
That's
I
what I
wrong?
was
I
asked
mean,
to do.
y'all
Yeah.
chime in all you want. I mean, am I wrong? To just
Did you-
try to resolve this? I mean,
Is
Is
the
that okay?
community needs some answers.
I'm curious what we're resolving. Museum.
I mean, any member of this board
Give
can
the
meet
money
with
back.
Ms. Galloway at their own discretion. Dan can meet with her if we'd like for him to, but of course, you know, there's only so many things he could say.
I will
And that's
go
where
on
that
the
is.
record stating I vehemently disagree spending any money on an attorney to resolve anything that's technically been resolved. I'm curious. I just want to make sure that's out there that
But we
I'm
don't
but one
want
vote.
to. We don't want to spend taxpayer money that we don't know what the end price tag would be
No.
on an issue that more than likely does not include the town. It might, but more than likely it doesn't. We don't know all the questions yet, but what we do know is we don't want to spend any money on it.
I'm no.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Well, that's up to the
Okay,
board.
I want to ask this question, is that the same thing as a traffic study that we don't have a price tag for?
That benefits the safety of the people of this town. I don't.
I believe that constitutes taxpayer dollars.
I think that is the purpose of collecting taxes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have to have
Do
a
let us
price
know
tag.
whenever
We
you
have to
get
have a
it. How about price tag
I'll
on it?
in order
contact
to
Denise
answer
and ask
questions.
what she's talking about, and then
report back to us.
We'll report back at the next meeting, and I'll bring some names of some potential investigators and a rate, and we'll.
That's fine. There's
figure
no
out what
harm in
the
information.
investigation is then, if we want to do one.
Okay. That sound good?
Well, what I was doing is wanting to get the ball started on an investigation.
Well, that's what he said he's gonna
It sounds like
do.
a big, yeah, if that's the starting point where we want to get to, that'll be fine.
Okay.
I like a formal vote on that.
All right. She would like a motion to direct the attorney to do that. I think that's fair.
Okay, I'll make a motion to ask the attorney to reach out to officials and investigators to determine what their fees would be if we were to look into the museum grant and the discrepancies in the way the money was spent.
Okay.
All right. There's a motion. Any discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand.
that motion.
Well, let's finish it. Opposed? All right, the motion fails. Well, he's allowed to make.
Okay,
we
can I
can
make
work
an
on a
motion?
motion. Yeah.
I'm gonna make a motion. Can you please, I make a motion that you reach out to Denise and see what we can do to resolve this, okay? Whether, I don't really think an investigation right now
Right.
is going to really do much because we've heard from them, they don't want the taxpayers' money to be spent like that. But I think we need to do something to move forward. And guys, our town is divided big time because of this issue. Huh? Who? Okay, whatever. But it's dividing our town with a lot of people. Okay, so, and we don't really need y'all's comments like we do either all the time.
I do. I need them all
Well,
the time.
I'm glad that you do, because your family's in half the town is not being targeted like mine is constantly. We're being accused of things. We're being accused of. Well, she stood right up there and she said that. I'm not gonna get into this because I might say something, but anyway, I just want to make sure. I don't want to spend a lot of money on an investigation, but anything that we can do moving forward to kind of get the town reunited, okay, which is almost takes an act of God, but if you can do anything to help us in that direction, it would be greatly appreciated.
So allow me then, and correct me, but to clarify the motion or suggest rather, the motion would be to direct Dan to very specifically ask Miss Galloway for specific grievances
And have an open dialogue,
and
just to find out, I mean, what
Well,
we can do.
We've seen some email chains from back in January between Dan and Miss Galloway, him asking her very clearly, and she's kind of dancing around it. And so I think the motion should be for him to very specifically ask her for grievances and
If that's what you
propose
feel,
and
yes.
propose
If
resolutions.
that's what you feel, yes.
Okay. And so just so we can leave Dan with some very clear direction.
I'm actually not sure what the question is. I don't know. I don't, because the town's not involved in that investigation, if there is one.
And I have not been contacted. I could tell you they have not reached out to me.
The town has not been contacted about any investigation.
I'm pretty sure the county addressed the grant monies,
Yeah.
and it was
I mean, I
published
think I
what their
can-
resolutions were and what the reasons were.
The general concept is because they got a grant funding, they were supposed to do some sort of bid process to in their hiring of who's going to do the work, and they didn't do that. And so they violated the grant funding, you know, the way they're supposed to allocate.
That was not.
But that has nothing to do with the town.
I can understand that.
Well, I feel like that it does involve the town if it's town property and the money was allocated for our town and the benefit of our town, and now we've lost a big percentage of it.
I don't.
But we as a board don't manage that
Yeah.
money.
We're not
we
managing
have gotten
it.
free
We
improvements
just want
to
the
a town building.
information.
Right. We got so the town's role again, and back in years and years ago, and we found the minutes. The board voted to allow the museum to utilize a town-owned space for the museum. There
that
was
was it. There
never
was
any
no
formal
MOU.
agreement about that. It was just in the minutes that hey, you can use this property. So when it came time, they got the grant funding, and they were going to do some improvements, some electrical improvements, and things like that. I wasn't really involved in this, but the town basically said, "Great, if you've got money and you're going to make improvements on our building, that's great." It was later realized that we didn't have an MOU in place or an agreement about how those improvements would they stay with the town, because the museum is the one spending the money, but it's on property of the town. So when we realized there wasn't an agreement in place to speak to that, the board adopted an MOU with the museum, clarifying that any improvements made on town property remain the property of the town. That's really the only involvement the town had in this entire process. The other issues that are sort of floating out there are the museums.
There are ethical issues as to whether or not the town mayor and one of the town commissioners should have played a part in the mayor's firm receiving the contract for those repairs.
The only part I played was
without
submitting a
another
bid.
That
and
is where
that's a
the
matter
public
of
question
opinion.
is.
That's not a legal issue because the town manager at the time allowed the museum to make those improvements with the idea that this is essentially free repair work getting done on town property. So and should it have come to the board? Should it not have? That's a matter of perspective, and I can certainly understand the argument that it should have come to the board. But it's not a legal or an ethical issue. It's a perception issue and a best practices issue.
But we've since taken steps since that with the MOU for the museum, and on top of that, a building maintenance policy, so that anything that is not covered under that MOU would be covered somewhere else in a building maintenance policy.
Right.
That dictates what kind of building maintenance comes before this board or can be done without the board. Right. There's a lot of policy that's been cleaned up because of this.
I've also seen, an allegation that the town somehow didn't follow its procurement policy, and that the town's procurement policy never came into play because the town didn't spend any money. So I'm not sure. Yeah, I think there's a lot of issues maybe for the museum and whatever investigation into the licensing, but in my mind, none of those are town of Angier issues because the town of Angier wasn't involved in that.
All right, well, there's a motion to
But
direct
happy to-
Dan
yeah.
to contact Denise. So let's go on that one. All those in favor of that motion, please raise your right hand. Opposed? It carries. So you've got direction on that.
I'll get a list of grievances from Denise. And
Okay. All right. Anything further? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. We are adjourned.